Rebuilding this this glass frame. It's a bit warm at the moment, but basically cut the bottom, sort of, it goes that way. Let me put it the right way up so you can actually see what the fuck it is I've done. So basically cut out the rotten piece, which it's seen better days, isn't it? That's the top rail of my donor piece. That's going to basically go in there. When I cut it all back, I found that the channel was compromised. So again, from the donor piece, I've salvaged the channel. I'll weld that in later on. And then when I took the channel off and attacked it with the zip wheel, yeah, a big old hole appeared and some fairly heavy duty pitting just above on the bottom corner here. So I've welded in a fillet there, again cut from the donor piece. There's a lot of cutting going on today. And now I'm going to flap that back, I think, and then weld in. Well, that looks a shed load better. Okay, so there's a little bit of a mismatch here. I can sort that out, but once the seal is over the top of all of that, you're not going to see that joint anyway. It wants a damn good paint. You can see I've welded in this piece, flatted back the edges, trial fitted it into the door. It all fits beautifully. In order to align this thing, I've measured from the top to that point. I've also used the original piece which came from a driver's door, and again, so this was the donor section. As you can see, I've got that lined up beautifully. Okay, passenger side, for some reason the passenger side, that piece there, that bit there, is not the same angle, it's not the same height, but the driver's side is. So don't rely on driver's and passenger sides being exactly the same. This is exactly the same as the donor piece. Very, very useful chunk. Now the other section I did have, of course, was the original donor driver's side piece from the other side, the leading edge, and again lines up beautifully. Okay, a couple of useful bits of scrap steel. They're the only driver's side ones I've got left that aren't fitted to doors at the moment. So the only bit left for me to do is to drill the drain hole, the hole for the quarter light, and then put the bracket on the underside to support the quarter light. It's done. Instrument pod from the Lincoln Green car. As you can see, this thing, I think it's been stored in the sea. I'm not expecting great things. I've done nothing with it at all at the moment. It is complete though. So what I've basically done here is I have made myself up a test rig, which all I've really done is from an old broken loom, one that was absolutely destroyed beyond all, kind of hope. I cut the connector off. It goes onto the back of the instrument pod. Here's one of my spare. I've got many of these. So I cut this off. Then going through the wiring diagram, identified each of the circuits, identified which one of these goes back to earth and which one is a live feed, and I connected them all up. If it's got white on it, then it's a live feed. If it's got an earth on it, then it's an earth feed. And I've just put a little fuse on there just to save me melting things. So if I connect this one up, and I know this particular circuit board on the back here has issues, it is challenged, and I'll go through that in a second. Now, if I connect up the positive and then the negative, we'll see that basically, we've got one light out, one light on, we've got both gauges maxing out, we've got a couple of lights out here, so we've got the trailer light and we've got the brake light are out. Now, the reason that those two are out is purely because the circuit board is burnt. So let's just take that off for a second. This is where the fuse helps. So first and foremost, we've got an earth track up here that's fused, and we've also got another track down there that's fused. So, but we know the connector works. That's the main thing. Okay. So this one really needs to be is for spares. Or I can probably, you can see where that track's burnt through there. This one's obviously burnt through. Now obviously using power probe I can test the bulbs, so when you're pulling the bulbs out of these, by the way, pull them in one direction then the other direction and then they should come out. If you try and twist them you just break the bulb and then you'll curse. So let's pop that there, and if I put the power probe back on, and I've got the earth on the power probe here, so if I put the earth onto one side of the bulb and the power probe onto the other side of the bulb and give it 12 volts, we might have a blown bulb there, chaps. It's not unusual. I can test that by putting, because these are the ones that capless bulbs, again, earth on one side. Yeah, oh no, hang on a second, it did work. So we'll now find that this cap here is probably grubby. So a little bit of contact cleaner in there. Wiggle the bulb in and out a couple of times. I've got a small wire brush around here somewhere that I've been using all morning. Ah, here it is. Take the bulb out. Just give the two contacts a little rubbing over. Just cleans things up a little bit. Put the bulb back in. Is it going to work now? There's the negative. These aren't LED, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which way round. Now that might be a dead cap actually. Might need a bit more than that. Other ones I've been reasonably successful in. Oh, there we are, it works now. Okay. Now let's wire this one in next. Oh, there's my jump in. Look at that. Right, so we'll plug the loom into this one. It's in. We've got the live connected up. It's the first time I've done this, folks. We actually lean it on something so we can actually see what's going on. Stand it on there. How about that? That'll do. Right, now, where's my earth wire? There's my earth wire. Again, great prep, Richard. Great prep. Okay. So it looks like we've got indicators, we've got brake, we've got gauges. Have we got illumination? Yes, we've got illumination. We ain't got fuck all else. I think what I'm probably going to do here is I'm probably going to take this thing apart. Let's take the connector off the back again. So these things are relatively straightforward to take apart. I say relatively. We can test the continuity on the circuit board. We can clean up the bulb contacts as we have done on the other one. And we can see if we can get this unit working again. That both gauges are working would indicate that this absolutely appalling looking voltage stabiliser, that's the voltage stabiliser there, voltage regulator, voltage stabiliser, is functioning. It's bizarre, isn't it? The state of the thing. Right, let me go and get some screwdrivers. What I've done, stripped it down. I didn't bother taking the entire PCB off. Purely because the nuts that hold the two instruments on are corroded, and they work, so there's no point taking those off. I shall leave them in place. Now, next thing you need to make sure is when you're putting this PCB in place, it won't work unless the little copper strips are over the edges of the holes. That's what the bulb makes contact with. Now, if you look at this thing, it's like a giant train set really, isn't it? Just a standard PCB electrical circuit. So what we can do is we can trace each one of these circuits around to the various components on the board. Drawn it out. Then what I've done is I have connected up my power, thus, and using my power probe, gone round, tested each one for continuity and power. Okay, so continuity and power on every single one of the circuits works. So I know the PCB is good. Next, what I did was I tested each one of the bulbs. Now, I can tell you now, there were 5 bulbs that were blown. Rubbish. These are 12 volts, 3 watt bulbs. That's what the manual says. So basically the manual says in here, parts guide, the bulb, 12 volt, 3 watt. All of these bulbs, half of these are new, but 5 of them are new. 12 volt, 3 watt, that bright. Now, bear in mind how bright that was. 3 of the bulbs are not working at all now. That bright. Turn the noise off, just sorry. Are that bright. So they're either half the wattage or they're 24-volt bulbs. So they're incorrect, and that explains why I think I had a couple of bulbs that just really were not bright enough. So let's start by, as I push each one of these in, I should see it light up. That one lit up beautifully. There we are. There's one. I go on to the next one. And as I push it in and it makes contact, I see it lights. That's 2 lit. Right, now let's start at the top here, and then just work our way down, knowing that each bulb is actually working as we plug it in. Nice, huh? Trailer bulb ain't going to work because I haven't got it connected at the moment. But when I connect that up to the positive, it should work. There we are, fuel. These things can be a bit fucking tight to get in. You don't want to jar them because what will happen is you'll just break the bloody bulb. I can see they're lighting up as I'm pushing them in, you see, so I don't need to turn over every single one of them. Right, now that goes in there. That goes in there. And the trailer will go under here. Well, that's better, isn't it? Okay, it's a bit grubby still. Just give it a wipe through. And if I put the voltage stabiliser, in fact, what I'm probably going to do is pinch the, because I've put a load of bulbs in, I might as well put the voltage stabiliser out of this one in as well. Fucking thing. It's going to come out. So voltage stabiliser will also go in. In fact, let's just disconnect that for a second because I don't want to be damaging the gauges. Push him home. Reconnect earth. And we should see both gauges maxing out and all lights on apart from trailer. Now, why isn't trailer working? Well, because the wire that goes into the back of it hasn't got anything on it at the moment. So if I test the wire, it tells me it's got nothing at the moment. If I test the continuity of the wire to an earth, if I can get my ham-fisted gibbonry sorted out here, right, there's no earth. So I don't know what it's actually connected to, is the honest answer there. I think it goes to a positive, but anyway, I don't need to test. I know the bulb works, and I know the circuit's going to work as well. So I think at the moment, I am ready to put this thing back together again. Okay. So what I really want to do is test each of these instruments, is to just check the circuitry on them. If the gauge works, then the problem is more likely to be with the sender or the main part of the loom, and less likely to be with this part. So on the back of the voltmeter, I've only got one terminal, one earth, one terminal. So all I really do is put the power probe onto that and give it voltage, and we can see that the gauge works beautifully. Okay, that's perfect. Then I need to go to the next one, which is oil temp. Now I don't know which of these 2 spade terminals is positive and which one's negative. So the negative will go to the sender on the engine, and the positive will obviously come from the ignition controlled supply. So if I connect up, I'm not going to damage it, I don't think. Connect up one, give it voltage. Oh, that works. Should max out. Good. Then let go of the voltage and it should drop back down again. So by a lucky guess, 50-50 chance, I can see that that terminal there is the positive. So I'll give it a nice big plus, so I know when I'm wiring this thing all together, I know which one's which. Now, I'd already done this with the oil pressure, so again I'll connect up the earth and put the power probe onto the positive terminal, supply terminal, give it voltage, and we'll see it max out. So we know the gauge is working. Okay, so we're giving it a full earth. Now, as far as the clock is concerned, I've got an earth, so I'll connect up the earth. I don't know if the clock is going to work or not. Might need to leave this, I don't think we've got a second hand on it. I'll need to leave the clock connected for a while to see if it changes time. The other thing we can check is the illumination is working. Very dim. I can see this one's working, that one's not. Let's go to this one here. Again, we'll check the bulbs out. Go to that. Again, very dim. So let's remove the bulbs and we can actually just double check it. Start with this one here, I think. So I've not done much with these apart from... Right, okay, so we have got an earth, which I'll just attach onto the body of the housing, and a positive, which can go in there. I should see that light up when I give it 12 volts. Yeah, so it does work. We can check the earth works, really, I guess, by pushing the bulb in just a little bit. Oh, help if we connected the earth up. Gibbon. Yeah, so I can see that bulb is working. I can see the other bulbs working too. I just think they're not very bright. You probably don't want them to be bright. You really want to be concentrating on the what's going on the other side of the windscreen, really. Just being pedantic now. Right, so I can see that was working. I can't see anything at all from the clock. The bulb's not in for a start off, which is not going to help it, is it? Let's connect up the earth to the body and voltage. Yeah, we're getting no voltage on the bulb. It's the bulb blown. It's one of those kind of little 2-watt, 12-volt, 2-watt bulbs. So let's put the bulb in there. Touch the terminal in the bottom. Yeah, we're getting nothing. Bulb's dead. There's one bulb blown. That's easy enough to replace. Now, as far as the switch is concerned for the heated rear window, again, all I really want to do here is touch between the earth, between the two terminals, check I'm getting continuity through. So when I pull, I'm getting continuity. Close it, no continuity, continuity, no continuity, continuity. So I can see the switch is working. Then what I can do is I can actually test the bulb on this thing as well. Because there is a little bulb in the end here. You unscrew these things, there'll be a tiny little bulb, and it's even there, look. The bulb is even in there. See if it works. So again, just clamp it in the... It does work. How about that? Right, now, what I'll do is... I need to find out what the two wire codes are for the heated rear window. I need next to get my wire strip, because this cable's just been cut here, you see. So let's attach earth to Major Tom. There we are. Does it work on either? It does. It doesn't matter which way around the switch is. The light works. That's quite neat. So the light works for the heated rear window, which is good. Now, the cigar, whatever you want to call it, lighter, let's move that out of the way. I took it out because well, for want of a better word, it's fucked. I tried to extract it and it sort of started to come out, and then it just didn't want to go any further. So let's see if it's retrievable. Oh, right, it's out. Well, it might clean up. What's going on there, first of all? Why is that? Because it's got the kind of, you know, the plunger mechanism, which basically allows you to complete the circuit so that it will light your cigarette, if you get my drift. The problem I've got is it's all a bit knackered. It might just be just too far gone, this one. So that comes up there. I'm sure there should be a spring underneath there. So you push that in, you see. That might work. It doesn't stay in there. I'm inclined to actually just say, ah, for fuck's sake. So that's the other part of the housing. You've got the 12-volt supply on the bottom there, and again you've got a bulb in here somewhere, in there, and an earth. So we can see if the bulb works, and maybe we just replace this with another one, or with a USB connector. So there's the feed. No, that needs to be a feed, and that needs to be an earth. So do it this way round. There's 12 volts going through to it. There's not a lot of bulb action though. These things normally you get the bulb out just by squeezing that, and then the bulb is in here. This thing's made out of tin plate, isn't it? It's all very corroded. Oh, the bulb's any good. It looks like it's the same as the clock bulb. Let's just pop that on there. Pop that on there. I think the bulb's blue. Oh, that's a shame. I think someone's had like 24 volts going through this thing at some point, because there's quite a few blown bulbs on this thing. Right, so I have got another cigarette lighter, latest style. I don't think we're entering any concourse here, folks. 2 spade terminals in the back. Check the light works. Yep, light works. And we know that the cigarette lighter is going to work. So you can see that that goes in nicely, then it will pop out again. And that can be used as a USB slot or socket or whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to wire this in rather than faffing around with the old one, because there's just no point in fucking around with these things. Wiper motor. This is the standard Lucas wiper motor thingy out of the Lincoln Green car. There's a couple of problems we've got. First of all, we're missing a brush entirely, completely. I don't quite know how that happened. Maybe it got chewed up in there. So I'm going to see if I can order another brush, otherwise it's going to be another brush plate. You can see this is an original Lucas item. Fairly easy to fit, just solder onto the back of it. It's not the end of the world. And then we've got the cover, which has got the contacts for the self-park in it. Okay, so that cover just undoes. Nothing disastrous there. The motor's obviously already off, and as I've already shown you, the armature's in pretty good shape, keeping the armature out of the way of all this shit and grease down it. Now, the problem I've got here is the gearbox. That is fiendishly tight. So I'm anticipating that the brush up here has completely dried out. So I'm going to strip the gearbox down. I mean, it is loosening up as I'm turning it. There's a very tight spot around there. So take it apart, see if it's salvageable. Otherwise, I'm just going to get another wiper motor and not put my life into fixing this thing. Now, the next thing I'm looking for is my blue box, which you can probably see. Oh yeah, that's there, Richard. It's right there, it is. It's there, Richard. Right, so we need to get that little nut off there, which I'm going to guess is 7/16, and it is. So let's have that off and see what happens. That's not even tight. So that nut comes off. So we've got lots of grease in here. Whoops, there goes my pens. Oh, we're doing well today, Richard. Let's take that off there. I'll give this lot a damn good clean before it goes back together and re-lubricate it. It looks like that gear there sits on a D peg or an I peg. Correct use here of a electrician's neon screwdriver. So what I might have to do is to put my finger that side, my screwdriver that side, without damaging the nylon gears, and see if I can walk him out. This is more successful. See, I'm learning on the job here. Right, okay, that comes out. Underneath is a whacking great big spacer bar there by the looks of things. I don't know what that does. It won't have been put in there for no good reason though. And then underneath that, it looks like it's just a case now of pressing that out of there. Oh, it is starting to walk its way out. Yeah, I can see already this outer bush here is drier than a witch's tit. Look at that. That'll be why it's tight. Right, it's out. So I think that's just going to need some cleaning up there. There's some very, very, very solidified grease on that. I'll get some emery paper on it. It's been running quite hot, I think. Maybe some corrosion on the surface there. So the shaft may recover, may not. The bush is a pressed in jobby. We'll see what the sort of level of play is like on it. I'd say it's going to survive. Seen a lot worse than that. What does that feel like in there now? I reckon that will survive. There's no play on it. I reckon that will survive. Some marks on there still. I think, you know, we're looking at a near 50-year-old wiper motor. There's no reason why we can't get this thing back into service again. God knows why the brush is missing. I honestly don't know where that went. It wasn't in there when I took it apart, which is the interesting thing. I just did put a bit of emery paper on it and it's come up. I'd say that's more than acceptable compared to how it started out. Can't feel any problems with that at all now. Right, so I'll get the grease, and I've got copper grease, that's no good. I'll find me grease. I'll only find me a small tub of grease, so we'll have to use that. Right, time to get grubby. All my sticks are falling in. That one's alright. Right, let's put some grease on the shaft. And wedge some in the hole. And then shaft goes back in hole. You know what we've forgotten, don't you? What we've forgotten is that little cup washer, which went cup side outwards. Is that in good order? Yes, it is. Coated with grease, back in, and shaft plenty of grease in that hole now. Lubricant helps the shaft to slide in much easier. There we go. It's got a nice fluid feel to it, and the majority of the grease is in there. A bit more grease, I think, in the teeth. Let's give it a bit of a fighting chance. Oh, it feels even better now. Right, okay. Well, that was a quick and easy fix, wasn't it? Brushes next. Plot thickens somewhat. So I can't find these Lucas parts. The only base plates I can find are for the later Lucas motors and so forth that you get in Series 3s, which appears to be compatible. So I've ordered one of those up in the short term to see what basically, you know, it might work, it might not. Then I went into my stash and I found another wiper motor. Now this one actually runs beautifully, so I'm inclined to actually use this gearbox and put the other motor on it, or maybe even use the whole damn thing. The only problem I've got with this one is one of the brushes, you can see that one there, it's kind of like got itself stuck. It's not going any further and it started to burn out because of that. These brushes should be about 10mm long, so they are, or what length are they? Let's see. So they're 7mm long, so there's 3mm gone off them. Now a mil of that's going to be on the curve there, so they're 2mm kind of worn out. That one, however, has gone a bit further. And if you can see here, the black wire's kind of trapped the end of the relief on that. Now, it might work, but it doesn't move as far as these two. So I'm going to take this chappy off. I'm going to unsolder one of the brushes that are in good order off this. I'm going to put it on this. I think that's going to be the best way forwards with this, and then test the bastard. I have ordered some brushes up, but I don't know how long they're going to take to arrive. Now, this is another thing that's been amusing me. This is a drop arm, obviously. This is brand spanking new, never been fitted. Look at that. Can you fucking Adam and Eve it? I bought this about 6 months ago. I thought, oh, it'd be easy just put the whole drop arm, and it would kind of messing around with putting the ball joint in there. What sort of shit is that? So I've been in touch with the supplier. Dear supplier, I'm happy to put another cap on it, but that's just fucking ridiculous. Brand spanking new. Anyway, enough swearing, Richard. I'm going to do these carbon brushes next.